Hey everyone, it's Karina with Karina Loves to Plan. Welcome back to my channel. So these are all the brown inks that I currently own, which is a lot more than the last brown ink exploration that I did in April. So let's go ahead and swatch these. So I will be doing all the swatching in my A5 Galen leather notebook with 52 GSM Tomoe River paper, and I'm just setting it up here kind of like 30 inks 30 days, because this is, I guess, the best way to make use of these pages to get all 30 inks in here. But it's a really easy graph. Now I'm just going to tell you this ruler, because I get a lot of questions about it. This ruler is from Michael's that I bought about 7 years ago, and I don't think it's available anymore. But the grid that you also see behind the paper comes with every Galen leather notebook. So what I'll be using for swatching today as well is this Speedball B nib, which is on this straight nib holder, which has had some wrought-in work done by somebody in Japan. And then I have my Kakimori brass nib here with my River City Penco holder. I love this, and I cannot wait to buy my next one from Rich at the San Francisco Pen Show. All right, and I've got my jar of water and a very inky towel here. Let's get started. The first ink I am going to do is Andorilium Tulip Moth Warm, and I cannot remember who sent this to me. I'm sure it is on my spreadsheet somewhere written down, but it's such a lovely brown, and I've used it in a pen before, but I've been hoarding the last little bit of it. I almost don't want to use the rest of it because it's just such a lovely brown. It's a lighter brown, and I'm going to add a little bit more to this so you can see some of the shading here. I know a few people who have purchased bottles of this and absolutely love it. So I'm going to clean off my Speedball B nib and then grab some and put some on here. So this is Andorilium Tulip, and I don't know if I'm saying that, Moth Warm. And I'm just going to put as much of line variation as I can put underneath it. That's actually really, really lovely. All right, I'm really liking how you can see some of the pooling there and how that is just going to shade so beautifully. So that is Andorilium Tulip Moth Warm. The next one is a sample that was given to me sometime last year. Actually, a lot of these I've had for quite some time, and I just haven't had the heart to actually either use up the rest or, you know, give them away. I think I still want to further explore them. So this is Birmingham Penco Fox Squirrel, and actually my friend S in Ontario sent me another sample of this because I talked about how much I loved this. So I'm loving, you can already see the difference. Like the Andorilium Tulip Moth Warm looks more pink versus the Fox Squirrel, which definitely looks more brown. And then I'm going to write the name with my Kakimori brass nib. Oh, and I removed some of that space there. So I'm just gonna write P-C, gosh, Fox, that's really wet. Squirrel, and try and do some line variation here, which is really tough with the space that I have. Beautiful. Actually, seeing them next to each other like that, you can really see the difference. Fox Squirrel is definitely more of a traditional brown, whereas Andorilium Tulip Moth Warm, there's a lot more chromo shading happening there, and it's leading more towards the pink. So that is Birmingham Penco Fox Squirrel. Next, we have another Birmingham Penco ink. It is Projector Film, and I think when I first got these, I wasn't really into the browns. Don't know what I was thinking really. And this one is so interesting because it doesn't look brown when you first put it on the page. You're like, Karina, it's pink, it looks green, it is not brown, but wait for this ink to dry. And I've been wanting to put it in another pen, and I keep forgetting to, because I have so many inks. Sorry, my alarm just went off. Okay, so Birmingham Penco, so wet. And you can see now that it is drying a little bit more brown, but when it goes down, it first looks pink and green. And this is Projector Film. I really, really like this one. It's such an unexpected ink but I love it. And the more browns that I use, the more that I find differences and complexities in them amazing. And now it's looking a little bit more orange, like it's fantastic. So that is Birmingham Penco Projector Film. Next we have Colorverse Dakota Thunder, and this was recently sent to me by CR. Thank you very much for this. And like, look, it's just full to the brim. And let's just put a little bit on here. I'm trying to be more mindful of how much of this square to fill. Love that. Such a dark, warm brown. But then when I actually put it in the water, there's a lot of green that comes out in that, which is really, really interesting. So then on my Kakamori nib, so this is Colorverse Dakota Thunder. Wow. Oops. So I think I have a little bit more space here to do. Yeah. Look at how different it looks in that line width. It looks more orange in that broader line than it does in the ink swatch. Really, really interesting. So that is Colorverse Dakota Thunder. Next we have the Atramentis Document Brown. This was from a Goulet Pens order that I did a little while ago, and this was from I think I added this because there were a few of you who suggested I try this since my last brown ink expiration. So interesting. I love how each of these looks different. None of the ones that I've swatched so far look at all the same. Like this looks more, like there's more of a red or warm undertone to this. So oh gosh. And do I have ink on my fingers yet? No, this one's really coming off wet. Document Brown. Oh, I hate how that makes my writing look. Okay, I really like that. It is like a really creamy, I feel when I say creamy, it feels lubricated. But the color of the ink in that broader swatch, the tone of it or the saturation of it looks creamy. I don't know if that's a great way to, or a great adjective to describe an ink, but with brown, I feel like it fits. And so that's the Atramentis Document Brown. So this is a permanent ink. Next, I have a Diamine Chocolate Brown. So actually, how many do I have here? I have seven Diamine Brown inks, which is crazy. But chocolate brown, I know there's one I still have to try. I know there's like the Diamine Espresso that I need to try and I haven't yet. So I will grab a sample of that when I can. Yeah, very, very brown. I am the worst, I think, when it comes to describing ink colors. I think I was in Kelowna with my husband and we were doing some wine tasting, and I'm not great when it comes to wine tasting. I can appreciate good wine, but I'm not a wine connoisseur by any means. But just trying to find different adjectives for how wine tastes, I feel like is similar to trying to find adjectives to discover or to explain the differences between each ink. I really like that. Out of all of these, this one actually is quite the darker brown. Look at Dakota Colorverse Thunder. You can see some of the sheen actually that's happening here as it's drying, and then with Document Brown, that looks like it's drying a little bit more pink or lighter brown as well. It's so interesting to see all of these dry on the page versus when they first go down. And actually that's the fun thing about this video, is that you'll be able to see all of the inks that went before the one that I'm currently swatching and see them all dry over time. So that is Diamine Chocolate Brown. Next I have a Diamine Raw Sienna, and this one I purchased without ever sampling, and I don't normally buy a bottle of ink without first buying a sample and trying it out, and I hardly ever buy ink, but I don't know, this one, well, Cult Pens was having a sale. They were having their 4 for 5. No, 5 for 4. 5 for 4 inks sale, and this was one of the ones that I decided I needed to splurge on and take a chance on. And I really do like it. It's a warmer, yellower brown than the other ones that we've tried so far. And you can see some of them are drying a little bit more pink, which is so interesting. So Diamine, raw sienna. I really like this one. And actually, I'm really glad that I bought a bottle of this in the end. I like the more yellow tone of that ink. I think it's just so funny how different some of these broader strokes look to the ink swatch, but I guess I'll wait until they dry to make my final conclusion. All right, so that is Diamine Raw Sienna. Next we have Diamine Cocoa Shimmer, and this was one of the first bottles of ink that I ever purchased almost 3 years ago now. And it's not one that I actually have used very much, which I'm kind of sad about, and I feel like I'm gonna let that one go because it deserves to go to a good home that's going to appreciate it. It's a gorgeous brown ink with gold shimmer, but it's just not one that I'm reaching for. So I feel like that is going to go to a good home. All right, so I'm getting some on my nib here. It is more of a reddish brown, and I think some of that gold shimmer in there is affecting that. So this is Diamine Cocoa Shimmer, and then it looks really light in that, and I wonder if I'm not drying that off properly. All right, so that is Diamine Cocoa Shimmer. A really pretty ink. I just haven't been using it enough, and I feel like I really need to make use of what I have. If not, then I'm just going to give these away. And I think I know where this is going. All right, so Diamine Cocoa Shimmer. Next we have another Diamine ink. This is Diamine Dusted Truffle, and this is from, forget which ink event this was. I believe it's Ink Event 2022 that this one was from. And this was given to me in an ink swap. Now, I have to say Dusted Truffle looks green in this, but I believe like it's got the base of it is brown, and then it's got a silvery shimmer, so it looks more green. Why am I closing that? It looks more green than it does brown, but you can kind of see a little bit of the base in that top color there. So it's more of like an olive brown rather than a brown. I hope you are not coming to these ink exploration videos with hopes of me being a complete wordsmith with all of the beautiful adjectives to describe these inks, because I do not have them. I will just say this one looks warmer, this one looks cooler, this one looks more orange, and those are my adjectives for describing these. So thank you for sticking around if you are sticking around. So that is Diamine Dusted Truffle, and you can see how different that looks. I'm actually just looking at even the 9 that I currently have swatched here, and Andorilium Tulip, Mothworm, Atramentis Document Brown, and Projector Film all look pink. And then Dakota Thunder with the sheen looks more green. Diamine Chocolate Brown is so dark, and then Fox Squirrel and Raw Sienna are kind of more along the same spectrum. And then this Cocoa Shimmer looks so orange compared to the other inks. And I'm like, did I make sure that I swatched Cocoa Shimmer and not Caramel Sparkle? And I'm sure I swatched Cocoa Shimmer, but it just looks so different from the rest of them. So interesting. Next we have Diamine Triple Chocolate, and this is from the Ink Vent calendar of 2019. And since becoming interested in brown inks, I am just amazed at the variety out there. Absolutely amazed at the variety, because just even from looking at what I have in my notebook here, they're so different. So different. So this is Diamine Triple Chocolate. Now, triple chocolate, there's dark chocolate, semi-sweet, milk, white chocolate, although that doesn't really count as chocolate, but would that be the mix that's in here if we're thinking about triple chocolate in real life? I don't know. I like that. I really like that. And I feel like that kind of goes more along the creamy brown, if that makes sense. I don't know. If the creamy analogy makes sense to you, please let me know down in the comments below. I want to know that this makes sense to somebody other than me. So it is Diamine Inkvent Triple Chocolate. Next we have Diamine Weeping Willow, and this could be argued that this is not a brown. This is one of those that's kind of like in the, is it brown, is it green? I don't know. This is from the 2023 Inkvent calendar, I believe. And oops, it reminds me a little bit of Inaho, but it looks like it's a yellow green going down, but when it dries, it's a very, very light color, very light brown, which I have inked in my Heinz Penco. So I'm very excited to see how that writes for the month of August. Diamine Weeping Willow. Now it is only, what's the date today? What is the date today? It's the 26th, and I have already got my August pens inked up because I couldn't wait, but also a lot of my July pens have run dry. And see, look at how that's drying. Very, very light brown. And I'm excited to be using Weeping Willow. So at the moment, I haven't cleaned out any, oh no, I've only cleaned out one July pen, and I've inked up 10 new pens for August. So I currently have 19 pens inked, which is crazy. It's not, I'm not panicking about that at all. Anyway, so that is Diamine Weeping Willow, and you can see how that's transforming there on the page. I really, really like it. Last of the Diamine inks, we have Diamine Yule Log, and I love this one. Love, love, love. I used it in my, which pen did I use this in? I know I used this a few months ago, and I really, really loved it, and I'm so grateful to have this little bottle, because I want to use it again come fall time, which it's crazy to see that there's already fall items in the shops. But also today it's cold enough to feel like fall. Really pretty. It's got such a warm yellowy undertone, but I think part of that is also all the shimmer in there. It's going to dry so beautifully. So we have Diamine Yule Log. Oh, I'm just thinking of that beautiful Yule log cake for Christmas. There we go. Oh, I'm getting hungry. All right, and you can see the shimmer in there is not your typical gold or silver shimmer. It looks almost bronze. It's really or even rose gold, and that's why it gives that kind of that warmer tone of the brown in that. It's that shimmer. So that is Diamine Yule Log. Going off alphabetical order here because I wanted to compare Diamine Weeping Willow to Troublemaker Kelp Tea, and then afterwards I will swatch Pilot Iroshizuku Inaho so you can see all three of those together. But this is another one that I've actually sent out many samples to friends, but it's not one that I've really used. But also I'm finding that I have now other inks that are very similar in tone that I really don't need this one. And it goes down green. You're like, Karina, that is not a brown. I know, you guys said this to me last time, and that's fine. This starts off green and then it dries just so different. And that's why I wanted to compare it to Weeping Willow, because I feel like the two it can be very, very similar. So this is Troublemaker Kelp Tea. If you can hear the footsteps above, Lucy just running to meet him. She loves my husband, loves him. And a bit of behind the scenes story. He was not in favor of getting a dog, and I did not listen. And now he absolutely loves her. Loves, loves, loves her. It's always the way though, isn't it? So that is Troublemaker Kelp Tea. It doesn't look brown right now, but it will. Just give it a few minutes. Okay, so that's dried a couple minutes. It does look a bit more brown now. I'm gonna compare it next to Pilot Iroshizuku Inaho. And I've got a half a bottle of this left. And yes, I am hoarding this. I have sent a few samples of this out to friends, but this is one that hoarding and should probably, I say hoarding, I mean, I should actually use it more. And it's so funny when it goes down like that, it looks more yellowy, like yellow warm based than Weeping Willow and Troublemaker kelp tea, but it's so interesting, this color. It kind of reminds me of, is it Birmingham Penco barley in the way that that goes down, but when it dries, oh, it's definitely different. So this is, whoops, oh, that's so violet. Iroshizuku. See, this is why I cannot write with a broad nib. You know, oh, my writing just looks like one big blob. And yeah, it really does look yellow, but it dries to that beautiful lighter golden brown. And I thought it was a lot more similar to Troublemaker kelp tea than I thought it was, but it's actually kelp tea and Weeping Willow do look similar. This one just has more of a pink undertone. You know what that one reminds me of, which I no longer have a sample of. It's that Sailor 150th anniversary. Is it 150th? Yeah, 150th anniversary that I had a while ago, which I no longer have, but that's what that one reminds me of. All right, so that is Pilot Iroshizuku Inaho. The next ink I have is Herbin Lie, and I'm just realizing that if I'm swatching 30 inks and each ink is taking approximately 1.5 to 2 minutes, this is going to be a very long video. So thank you for sticking around. So Lie. This was one recommended by many people especially when I first started in the fountain pen hobby, and I instead tried, oh, which one did I try? Café des Îles. Did not like that one, but maybe it's because I was not in my brown era. So Herbin Lie, and I wonder if I tried Café des Îles now, would I feel the same or would I feel differently? It's funny how that works. All right, what does that look similar to? Kind of looks a little similar to Diamine Raw Sienna, but I want to wait until these all dry to make that comparison. So that is Herbin Lie. Next we have Ink Institute Moonshine, and this one was sent to me by Katie, and I have not yet put this in a pen because it's actually one that I've mixed with other inks to make to add a certain tone to that ink, but it's a really light beigey brown, and it's not really one for writing or for putting in a pen, but it is great for art, which is why I like keeping it. Oops, I went out of alphabetical order. That's okay, because I still have Ferris wheel press to get through. So Ink Institute Moonshine, and you can see how in the line width, it's not even registering. Wow, I really like that. And I wish that it could be a bit more legible in a pen, but unfortunately it's not. So I keep it for artwork. So that is Ink Institute Moonshine. Next I have Ferris Wheel Press Majestic Maple Syrup, and I bought this in the Charger set with Cabernet on the Lake, and Hampton Harbor Sage. And I do like Charger sets. They're great for trying out new inks, and I mean the glass little vials are really cute, but they're not very practical, and I've had a couple of leaks, but it's okay. So Ferris Wheel Press, and this one is a drier ink, unfortunately. Majestic Maple Syrup is the name. Gosh, I forgot. Majestic Maple Syrup. And I do like the color of this ink. I like the golden brown tones, and I love the shimmer in it, but again, it's one of those that is just not a great legible writer. Great for headers, really, really great for headers, but not great for everyday writing. So that is Ferris Wheel Press Majestic Maple Syrup. Next we have Ferris Wheel Press Workshop Wishes, and this was also sent to me by someone in the fountain pen community. I forgot to move that along. agitate the shimmer there. Okay. So this one is really pretty. I really like that yellowy golden brown, and then the shimmers. I believe I have used this in a pen and I really enjoyed that experience. This one was not too dry and it wrote really well. And I do have to say, Ferris Wheel Press do some shimmer inks really well. Just some of their other inks are just dry. Workshop Wishes. So pretty. I really like this one. Only it would leave my nib. Now I love doing, gosh, that was a horrible line width. I love doing these ink swatching videos. They're so relaxing. Even if it really is just me talking to myself. But it's fun, and I love the finished product when it's all done. So that is Ferris Wheel Press Workshop Wishes. Next from Ferris Wheel Press we have Oyster Hour, and this one is a recent addition to my collection. And I say recent, the bottle is a recent addition. I've had a sample in a charger set before and absolutely loved it, although I didn't appreciate it for what it was before when I had the charger set. What drop is that? That's a different ink. I'm trying to get that out because that's not the same ink. Oh, I was gonna say that looks very similar to a different ink, but it's lighter and doesn't have the chromo shading. What was I saying? I was saying that when I had this in the charger set, I didn't appreciate it for what it was. I was not in my brown era. I was not liking it as much as I enjoy it now. So Ferris Wheel Press Oyster Hour. Side note, my 9-year-old son loves oysters and mussels. Henry and escargot. Go figure. His palate is amazing. That is Ferris Wheel Press Oyster Hour. Last in my Ferris Wheel Press set is Writing Desk, and this one is an exclusive from Wonder Pens in Toronto, and I would never have purchased it before. Shipping within Canada is really expensive, so it's not, unfortunately, very often that I buy from Canadian shops before a certain price point, because shipping is expensive. But when this became available again at about the same time that the TWSBI Eco, was it the cream rose gold or the cafe bronze that became available, I had to buy this. And look at how deep and rich that brown is. And it's like a caramelly type of brown, that base, but there's also a lovely, beautiful green sheen to it that you will see once it dries. So this is Ferris Wheel Press, and I had this in my Pelican M800 with the, what did I have it in? With a fine cursive smooth italic, and it was such a wet writer, but it showed off the properties of this ink really well. Once this dries, you'll really see the green sheen along the edges. So that is Ferris Wheel Press Writing Desk. One more I'm adding from the Ferris Wheel Press line at last minute, actually, because I realized how similar the base color looks to Pilot Iroshizuku Inaho, is this tiny little bottle of Ferris Wheel Press Queen and Castle. This bottle of ink was sent to me by a wonderful viewer, and I love this because, yes, it does look like it's more of like a yellowy golden olive, but that rose gold shimmer in there makes it look a little bit more brown, and I really love this ink. It's got similar tones, I believe, to Pilot Iroshizuku Inaho, but, whoops, very wet, but has that rose gold shimmer in it. Ferris Wheel Press Queen and Castle. One thing I do have to say about Ferris Wheel Press is that when they release their inks, they make them limited, which I don't like. I don't like that kind of FOMO, if you don't get it once, then you'll never get it type of thing. Ah! Oh dear. Gosh, this notebook has had so much ink so much ink spilled on it, or spilled around it, or whatever it is. But yeah, I'm gonna be adding a couple of inks that were in last iteration of this video that may not be considered brown, but that is okay, because actually there were a few of you that said they found it all helpful. So this one is a recent one, and this one I think kind of falls into the same category as possibly a dusty pink rather than a brown. This is Pen BBS Mung Bean Cake, and it looks, when it goes down, it's this light brown that dries to a dusty pink. I love it. I love it, love it. Reminds me of Sailor Shikiori Kitsune-biori, which I will swatch right next to it. Pen BBS number 443 Mung Bean Cake. Okay. Oh, I love this. Love, love, love this. All right, look at how light that is. Now I'm going to compare that to Sailor Shikiori Kitsune-biori, one of my favorite inks, and one that many argue, is it dusty pink, is it brown? You never know. And you know what? I've given so much of this ink as samples to friends of mine that I think I only have maybe like enough to fit in a sample vial after this, and that's okay. But look how similar those two look. This one looks like it's gonna dry a little bit more pink than the Pen BBS Mung Bean Cake. But look at how similar they are. This amazed me, and I love it. So Sailor Shikiori Kitsune-biori. Yes, look at how similar those two look. When it goes down, it looks like a brownie, and then when it dries, it does look more pink than brown. But I really wanted to compare those two together because just look at how similar those two look. So that is Pen BBS Mung Bean Cake next to Sailor Shikiori Kitsune-biori. Yep, ink on my fingers finally. All right, next is Robert Oster Muddy Sand. And I know I've tried a few Robert Oster inks early on in my fountain pen career. Oh, let's just go right over it. It's gonna look a little bit different in that spot, and that's okay. I've tried Khaki, I've tried Gold Antica, which I really liked. They were both, I think I would like them now if I purchased them again now. It's funny how Oster Muddy, oh gosh, Sand, sorry. It's so funny how inks that I really wasn't that interested in a couple of years ago, now I'm interested in again. Funny how that works. All right, so that is Robert Oster Muddy Sand. You can see that there's like yellow golden undertones to it. I really, really like that. Another Robert Oster ink is Cafe Crema. Now this is one of those that is kind of in league with Lie d'Eté, Herbin Lie d'Eté. It was one of those inks that I heard so much about when I first started and I hadn't tried, and look at that. It really does have the kind of coffee feel about it. Not black coffee, but if you added like a little bit of cream, that's the color that you would get. I have this inked in one of my pens for August. I won't tell you which one, so that would spoil it. Cafe Crema, it's so gorgeous. And it's going to shade so, so beautifully when that dries. Lovely. So that is Robert Oster Cafe Crema. All right, next we have Wearingeul Stonecutter's Song. Oh my gosh, look at my fingers. Sorry. Wearingeul Stonecutter's Song. What I like about this one is, one, is it brown? Is it purple? Is it gray? Right? Is it brown? Is it purple? Is it gray? Or a combination of the three? And after swatching all of these different inks, and seeing all the different inks out there that are classified as brown, what do you think of this one? Other than the fact that my writing looks so messy. Stonecutter's Song. Yeah, when you have a nib like the Kakamori nib, which I love, but if the ink is just falling off of it, my tiny writing just can't handle it. So yeah, is that brown? Is that gray? Is that purple? And it kind of depends what angle you're looking at it from, whether it's wet or dry, you never know. So that is Wearingeul Stonecutter's Song. Next we have Diamine Coliseum. Now I was wondering whether or not to include this, but I remember when I first got this ink, I actually put it along the other browns when I first swatched it. So I swatched this in an A5 ring binder, and when I first got it and I looked at the ink on the Kelp Pens website and other people's as well, I was like, oh, it's like a lovely beigey brown. But the one that I got is very peachy in terms of its color. So I don't know if there was something wrong with this particular batch or if this is what the color is supposed to be. But on the website, Kelp Pens, it is a brown, like a lighter beigey brown, but here it looks more like coral. So I'm including this because I feel like the original ink color was supposed to be more brown, but the one that I have looks more coral. So that is Diamine Coliseum. And that kind of brings me to the last three inks that are going to go down here. The last three inks are they brown? Are they orange? You'll probably think they're orange, but I don't know. I have two inks here with the word caramel in the name. And yeah, caramel can be more orangey, but I have also seen caramel brown. So yeah, like even when I open this up, this is Diamine Caramel Sparkle. When I open that up, that is like radioactive orange. But I think that's also partially due to the gold shimmer in there. So I'm adding this because one, of the name caramel, but two, this was also in the original video. So I wanted to add it to this new comparison. I actually wanted to add all the inks that I still currently have from the original video so that I can compare it to what I have now. Diamine, and this is one of the first bottles of ink that I purchased, but just haven't used Sparkle. It's a very pretty ink. And it's not at all a bad ink. It's just one I haven't reached for. So that is the first in the oranges that I have. It's Diamine Caramel Sparkle. The next one also has caramel in the name, and it is Caramel Octopus Fluids. This was the one that my friend S sent me, and I use this in my honeycomb needlepoint, my Esterbrook SD honeycomb with the needlepoint nib. This one looks a little bit more brown than Caramel Sparkle, but it's still mostly orange. From just that, it looks more orange than brown, but I still wanted to include it because I'm just looking at this whole page and it's crazy how different all of these are. Like my last brown ink exploration, how many of these are actually brown? And a lot of you replied, many of them are. It's just there's so many differences in saturations and tones, and it's so true. And I'll show you once these are all dried how different, one, they look when dried, but two, just the range in brown, just the huge range that you can get with brown inks. So that is Octopus Fluids Caramel. And then lastly, Diamine Terracotta. This was a recent one sent to me, and there's not a lot left in there, but I'll show you. I like this because, again, this looks very similar to the last two that I just swatched, but it is more orange. This one I feel like has more, it could be closer to brown than the other two, but it's still more orange than brown. So that is Diamine Terracotta. Wow. Oop. Yeah. Even among the three that are at the bottom there that look orange, there's differences in those, which is amazing. All right, so there are all of the inks, and how different does this page look? Like Pen BBS, Mung Bean Cake, and Sailor Chikiori, Kitsune-biori, and actually Wearingeul Stonecutter Song actually all look very similar. Then you've got Troublemaker, Kelp Tea, and Weeping Willow looking very similar. Pilot iroshizuku, inaho actually looking similar to Robert Oster, Muddy Sand, and Ferris Wheel Press, Queen and Castle. Andorilium, Tulip Moth Warm, also kind of in the pinky tones. There's a lot, I feel like, going on here. Colorverse Dakota Thunder looks very similar to Ferris Wheel Press Writing Desk. They both have that green sheen going on. Atramentis Document Brown has like a little bit of a purple sheen going on around it. I'll bring that a little closer because it's look at that. It looks a little bit more pink. Really, really interesting. Diamine Raw Sienna, I feel like is the most traditional looking brown out of all of them. And then you've got Herbin Lie as well. Yeah, like the most traditional or stereotypical looking browns. I like Diamine Raw Sienna, Herbin Lie. Robert Oster Cafe Crema is more yellowy golden, got a warmer tone to it. I mean, there are some that I probably, now looking at it, wouldn't have classified as brown because of the way they've dried. You know, Birmingham Penco projector film dried more pink. That dried, you know, the mung bean cake dried more pink. Kitsune-biori still is kind of in the pinky brown. And then Stonecutter Song went down a purple gray brown and is now drying more pinky brown. So very, very interesting. What are your thoughts on all the ones that we swatched today? And I'm actually looking at this through the camera, and I love the overall finished look of the brown ink exploration. Thank you guys for encouraging me to try out so many more of these browns, but also to encourage me to compare all of these. I know the last time I did this, I was worried that none of these were brown, but a lot of you also appreciated being able to compare browns to even other shades that could have been similar. All right, but that is it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. If there's any that you think in here that would go with the dusty pink category, let me know down below as well, because I will be filming that for the month of August. Thanks again so much for watching, and have yourselves a great day.